Brandon, I am so glad that you are in my flock. You are amazing. We met a couple of years ago in LA. I think you're now on the other side of the US. And it is for me, I was talking with Curtis the other day, and he said, you need to talk to Brandon. And I said, yes, that's true. And we had a couple of times up and down mailing. And now we have this moment that you have time and I have time. And I'm so excited because I see you do a lot of great work with teams. You help them into the next stage. And I will have a few questions about that, how you keep LSP with that and why it's such a powerful tool. But first, who is Brandon? Where is Mr. Wetzstein coming from?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Martijn. Very happy to be here. Yeah, I'm in New York City right now. And yeah, who is Brandon? Wow, we should dive into the Lego bricks for that one. But yeah, no, who is Brandon? I'm the facilitator founder of Innate Create. I think I'm a play enthusiast in general. I think everything we do in life is should be fun and should be enjoyable. And I think yeah, a big fan of LSP, big fan of basketball, which is really big right now in the U.S.
Yeah.
We were in the playoffs. My team was in it, but they just lost, so I'm a little sad. But outside of that, yeah, that's a good overview of who I am. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I used to live in I've never lived outside of the U.S. I lived in Miami for a little bit, and I'm just a big fan of play, of ongoing learning, creativity, and just enjoying every minute of life.
So why was play so important for you? What so playful? A lot of people have an idea with it, but why was it so important for you that you kept doing it even as adult?
Yeah, I think looking at it with the hindsight, like I've always been that goofy, playful person. It's always just been a part of my personality, and I think a lot of it came down to, right? You look at early parts in your career where a lot of times I think that's where play gets pulled out of people, right? Especially, you get in school, you get in those first jobs, and we want to be serious adults. And I see my nieces going through this as well, right? You're kind of at that age where like, no, I'm serious now, and play is silly and what a child does, and play is not what an adult does. And that just never riffed with me, apparently. In my early years, and I was in retail management in my early career and through college, and we'd do like daily trainings all the time, and we'd like what a lot of people don't want to hear every single morning when you're talking about how to sell or how to talk to clients or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like, you need to make it fun at some point, right? Create some play, add something joyful and playful into it, and information then became you would see people absorb the information better in that playful environment. And I think that just was cemented very early on in my career and just became a staple to how I addressed most products or most processes, most teams. That little bit of levity, a little bit of play, and then we can all be creative and work better together.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That resonates really nice. As I remember in almost my third job, somebody showed me the fish film. It's about a fishmonger market in Seattle that
Ah,
throws fish to each
mhm.
other. Um, and everybody in the Netherlands go like, oh, but it's so American. I'm like, I'm pretty sure not every American fishmonger store is throwing fish. This is something different. But
Yeah.
the fun part, to be there, to pay attention. So they had these 4 steps that you had to do, and choose your attitude. I thought, oh, that really resonates with me. And the funny thing is, even the person that would say the hardest, oh, this is ridiculous, I would see that he the next day would choose his state. How do I come into this training? Where do I stand? And I thought, oh, this is so much more powerful than I thought. And I'm a lifetime scout. So also as a scout, we play, and we are the biggest learning surrounding in the world, according to UN, the biggest learning platform. I thought there must be something in it. So I resonate with that. And indeed, that makes it, maybe makes it also unique. But what makes it then with you? You work with teams, you make teams better, you do a lot of things. What is your approach making so unique?
I think to really pinpoint it, it's utilizing Lego Serious Play is one of the major unique approaches. But it's
Yeah.
as Lego Serious Play really is, it's a methodology for communication. It's allowing people to really ditch the group dynamics that hold us back. So what I mean by that is,
Yeah.
you think whenever we talk in a group, right?
Yeah.
not only are there the challenges with introversion and extroversion and hierarchy and all the things that get in the way, but we have very strongly held opinions about certain topics. And it's not like we get to sit in a circle and everyone take their turn and talk and say something, right? We have those, I think there's the, what is it, the six conversations that are happening between two people, right? There's what I think, you think, and what you think, I think, and there's all this stuff going on in our head, right?
Yeah.
And I believe what happens is when we play, and especially when we use this Lego series play, not only do we break down the fear that gets in the way of clear and concise communication, but it also puts us in a space that allows us to own our thoughts confidently, but also really allows us to listen to others. And it takes away some of that competition of voice that happens in these group conversations, especially on a topic that is maybe very important or has a major amount of impact. While, again, back into the normal conversations, there's a competition. People want their idea to win. They want to be heard. And the extroverts tend to drown out the introverts. And the people who are afraid to talk, their voice may not necessarily be heard, even though their opinion might be the one that everyone needs to hear.
Yeah.
And this playful aspect, like it gets all that stuff on the table, but it does so in a way that takes the fear, it takes the hesitancy away, and it really gives permission and space for everyone to get all the information on the table. And sometimes that's absolutely necessary. It shouldn't be done for every topic, without a doubt. You can't have every meeting be an LSP meeting. It would take forever, and you'd be tired of Legos by the end of like a couple days, I think. But when you really need to get that out, right? When you need to talk about what's getting in the way at work, or right, what is the one thing that'll unlock the future for this team or for this organization, you start to see these powerful insights come out, and the nuance behind those insights, the slight differences that don't often get caught in actual conversation.
Yeah. Wow. So you're saying there are a lot of things at the same time, eh? What makes it so unique and powerful? And you say for some conversations you want to use it, and for some conversations you don't want to use it. What would be a real conversation that you say, there I do want to use it?
I think that the way I like to frame it is anytime there's no one correct answer,
Yeah.
and you want to get everyone's voice and you want to hear what everyone thinks, then LSP is fantastic. Um, I recently did a workshop that I'm currently working on a case study to put together, and it was with a marketing agency that had gone through some recent organizational change, probably 5 6 months ago, and it's about like a 30-person agency, and they did some shifting, and this is not uncommon, especially nowadays in organizations, right? We need to figure out how to create, right, a system where everyone can work best together for the organization, and so they shuffled and they made a few changes. Um, but what they needed to understand is for them to be truly successful and launch into this kind of new phase, they need to understand, like, one, where do they sit? Because they knew that everything wasn't perfect, right? It wasn't necessarily bad, but like, there's that little bit of a hitch in like we're a bit stuck, right? How do we move forward? And they really needed a space just to kind of cover what everyone was thinking, what everyone was feeling, and where everyone was feeling pain. But
Mm,
what a hard conversation to have sitting next to your CEO or sitting next to your right group director, whatever it
yeah.
might be. And so what we did is we used Lego Serious Play over, it ended up being like a 3 hour session. And, it started off fun and playful like Lego Serious Play does. Oh, we're playing with Legos. All right, it's part of our offsite. And then suddenly you hit them with the first, real question, which is like, how are you feeling right now about the changes? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden people are kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. This is work. We're still right. But suddenly I can play with my pieces, right? I put some thoughts together and then I can share it, right? This model external to me. And now it's a lot safer. It's a lot easier. And what I loved about that workshop is we didn't fix everything. And that wasn't the idea, right? The idea of this workshop was like we just needed everyone to kind of get together and just have a moment and say, like, this is how I'm feeling and this is like what's getting me stuck and this is what I think would be helpful to get me unstuck. It's a sharing of ideas and it's a lot of listening and there's a lot of realization that people aren't in their own boat alone, right? There's other people feeling the things they are, even though there might be some slight differences on how those feelings come to life. um, but the we did some surveying afterwards, and every single person felt like they were heard. Every single person felt like ideas came up that would have not come up in a normal conversation. So like this is the power of Lego Serious Play is to create this safe, open space to get all of those nuanced ideas out so that they can now move to the next step and go, yes, okay, we understand, we hear, everyone has a voice, everyone feels heard, everyone has had a chance to talk about right what's needed. Now we can go on to what's next. And I think that step sometimes gets lost because we like to solution things as people, right? We like to skip the problem. We like to skip the like, let's go do this instead. And then if we're not all on the same page, then it doesn't actually fix anything. So
Yeah, it's nice. Like Curtis said in the vlog we made with him, he said, as an LSP facilitator, you usher the genius in the room. So not that one genius, but that collective genius. So you usher the collective genius in the room. And that's what I hear you say as well. So I'm trying to summarize, but you say it lets out all feelings that are in the room. The lonely guy, the person that is normally not heard, is heard. And one thing for me as an agile person, and the people that we train are all in the agile way of working. What you say is when you play Lego Series Play, you almost like leveling the playing field. So if the CEO is there, or the CFO, or the bookkeeper, or the first person that just brings in stuff into boxes and put it in the warehouse, when they're all in the same room, you make a flat organization. Instead of a hierarchical organization, you build a flat organization. And that's pretty unique in a tool that is a possibility that everybody has like the same voice, the same volume of voice. And I think there, I agree. I see this also in Lego Series Play, that brings unique new insights. You tell it like we talk all about the feelings, but that is also like offering this unique insight that people get. And it's not, yeah, I liked what you said, that it is not straight away per se only this is the result and you have 10 bullet points, but there is a deepening in these bullet points that came out if the bullet comes. And sometimes there are no bullet points, but you will see, and I'm wondering if you recognize this. I see that when you do one workshop, they tend to speak about that models months after that workshop still. So the value of that workshop is so much higher than just that 4 hours or that 1 day or that 2 day workshop that you give them. How do your customers see that?
yeah, I think that sticks. I think you're right. Again, it depends on the topic and what's being discussed, but there is something memorable that happens because right again, there's this interesting feeling of being, I guess, freed up in a certain way. And it's easier for me to say that as a facilitator because I think as an individual, I in my career I never had a challenge speaking up. Right, I didn't have a problem, and I know right, wrong, or indifferent. I think maybe I just worked for the right leaders early on in my career that really encouraged ideas and sharing thoughts and things like that. So it really allowed me to create that path. But I think for some people, especially nowadays, where a lot of our relationships are so digital and we don't necessarily have that depth and we don't have that trust, to be able to go out on a limb and share what might be an unpopular opinion or to share something that is a little more personal. And I think this happens with LSP all the time. And I've heard people say this to me multiple times. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't really intend to share that deep. I didn't want to maybe go that far. And that's a good thing if we have created a room of trust,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're building with your model, when you have your hands and you're building over the build phase, you're not filtering yourself as much, right? You're thinking like, how does this model come to life? How do I tell this in a creative and unique way? And I'm pulling together pieces and I'm using my hands, and those filters are just pulled down. And that's why I think it does become memorable, because how often do you get to speak with freedom in that type of phase? And then I can tell sometimes people they're a little nervous when they're sharing too, because they're kind of like, oh wow, I wasn't maybe prepared that I was actually going to share all this information. But now that you have this built in front of you, you've taken time, you've taken your own personal effort. I believe it actually strengthens your own belief in yourself and your own belief in your ideas, kind of a tie to the IKEA effect, right? I've put my effort, I've put my time into this, so therefore I owe it to myself to share this thought and this idea. So it's almost reinforcing this confidence loop. And now you get this entire room of confident answers and opinions. And that's right, again, if you're bringing in an LSP facilitator, that's generally what you want, right? That's the idea. Uh, and I think that's powerful, right? I think that's so unique and different to a normal meeting where we're so filtered and we're so intent on managing how we come across. And this openness that comes with play, that comes with LSP, it really hits to, I think the word I'm looking for is authenticity. It's a very authentic view, and we're not allowed. Many environments are very difficult to embrace that authenticness in regular formats.
Yeah, and it has to do also part with that filters that you said before. It's like the 6 conversation styles.
Right.
What do I think that you think? And so all these possibilities to get this stupidity, I would say, almost in conversations, because they bring up stuff that is not necessary. And I spoke the other day with somebody that is all about brain learning. How does our brain work when we learn, and put people in scanners and measure them when they do stuff? Super interesting, super scary. And apparently we test on people. Awesome. But at the same time, what he said is that there's a part when we tell, for example, metaphors, a part of our brain stops working. So the part of our brain, the frontal cortex, that is all the time looking like, oh, careful, we have to think about this, stops working, and we're just listening to that metaphor, and we're listening to what does that mean. But also, it's also in the telling part. That's really interesting. So I was hearing only the story about listening, that, oh, I'm listening to your metaphor, and my brain doesn't go straight away into what is incorrect. But just listening, having the time for that. But I guess that is true, that it is also by telling. So when you're there, you build a model, you also want to tell that model. And then afterwards you go like, oh, maybe the frontal cortex was not working as I really shared my thoughts, and I didn't thought of what it would mean. And at the same time, it's very often very safe, because you talk about the model and it's not about the other person. It's more about that thing, what is almost a third person on the table. And by the way, people that are in this vlog watching instead of just listening, do you see that Brandon is all the time touching Lego, and he has like 7 models probably in his hand? What is really fun to see when you talk. I saw some other parts as well. I saw a green stone and a yellow stone coming by, and there we go. And it's good because people are fumbling around. There's a lot of brain power in that as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I just met with I guess I'll call her new friend the other day. We had just met, and I wasn't even intending. I told her, I was like, I'm gonna bring some Legos. She knew what she did or what I did, and we started talking, and we did a little bit of, I guess, the 3D interviewing, or like kind of doing just some storytelling with bricks. And what was amazing, and she had never done LSP before, never heard of LSP, didn't know what it was. But we started talking over, she was in a new role and had a lot of responsibility, was just kind of talking and sharing her challenges and her excitement at the same time. But she started building while talking. And it was amazing to see this like unlock that. And again, we weren't looking at each other at all. We were both just fumbling with Legos, having this conversation. And it was like one of the most free flowing conversations. And it had so much, all the details were very salient, right? And there's this anchoring, to your point, right? This piece where we're involving our hands in our thinking while we're talking. It was just kind of an amazing thing, because again, as a facilitator, I don't get to participate that often. I just watch, right? And I share and I open the space for other people. And you forget sometimes how easy it is to talk in this way, and how it unlocks just information in a different type of way that gives you such a unique perspective, even on your own thoughts and ideas, right? This whole kind of loop between constructivism and constructionism, building our thoughts and ideas out of models and then learning from them and positioning this information in our own mind. It's easy to forget how powerful it is, even though it seems so simple. Like I'm just playing with Lego bricks and thinking.
Yeah, and it's fun that if you start playing together in a one-on-one session, you also get this whole different story and this whole different conversations with each other. Wow, nice. Hey, and if I think about your workshops, how you know, one of the challenges that I hear a lot, because you look like a guy that everything goes easy peasy. You don't see any problems coming whatsoever.
Never.
You
No.
just go with the flow and money flows in and it
Right.
goes all perfectly. So I cannot imagine you would have, but if you would have an objection about, do you sometimes when you want to do a Lego series play workshop with your clients, how do you sell that, or don't you have any objections at all from clients?
Oh, of course. I have
Really?
plenty
You?
of objections all the time. Yeah, you and if yeah, boy, if money just flew the way that you were talking about, Mark, you got to tell me what account that's going into because I'm not sure where it is. No, I'm kidding, of course. I do think it's challenging because what you're proposing to bring in not only play, but play and Legos to actually solve problems. It's a I think there are some folks, right, that see this immediately and they're like, yes, this is exactly like they don't not only do they are they excited about it to work, but they want it to work, right? There's
Yeah,
almost like a yes, I want this to be the thing that fixes my challenges. And those I feel like are the clients that I end up working with more often than not, just because right there's a level of magnetism. People who actually do believe that play and believe that having open and creative and joyful workplaces is a way to work and to build teams. That being said, of course, people have to be pragmatic, right? Their performance, it's a reflection on them if they bring in a workshop that doesn't work.
yeah.
And so there's this level of there is some caution that comes out there, right? Oh, is this just silly? We're using Lego bricks to yeah, this is gonna be play. It'll be another fun team building type thing.
Yeah.
Right. Let's compare it to bowling or happy hour or making cookies together on Zoom. Whatever, right? A magician. Great. We all
Cooking
laughed and had a
cookies
chuckle.
together on Zoom. I love that one already. Where can I do?
Right. I mean, yeah, I love cookies too, right? Don't get me wrong. But I think that is the biggest objection to come over. And so the challenging part, at least what I've learned in my journey of, starting my business like 6 years ago now. And the initial part is like, wow, I have this cool Lego method. Like, how can I help the world? Right. Because when I was done with my certification, and I think a lot of people will agree that have been through this path, is you walk out like you just drank from a fire hose. You're like, I can solve all the world's communication problems. If I could just put
Everything.
Lego bricks in everyone's hands, we're good. Like we've done this. We've all the junk that gets in our way, we can just use Lego bricks to
Yeah.
overcome the communication challenges that are out there. But I think what really needs to happen is and I think every business owner has to find this at some point is you have to find your niche. Like what is the big problem that you're solving for? And then how are you using Lego Series Play to do that? And it's hard to back into that, especially if you don't know exactly what it is. And I didn't know what that was. And I really came into this team communication space, allowing teams to perform better, which is still a fairly generic piece. But I have case studies to back up many different formats on how this is done, whether it's leadership communication in executive teams, whether it's navigating change, right, after organizational changes, whether it's even actual team building, which is a phrase that I honestly, to be very, very open, I still kind of struggle with a little bit because in my time in corporate environments, team building was always kind of like that, like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess, right?
Okay.
We'll do this thing.
We go
And
to bed again.
and I enjoyed doing the team buildings most of the time. And they were,
Yeah.
sometimes they were silly and they were meant to be a shared experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. Having shared experience does build bonds and does build boundaries. But what I found is, at least with one of my most popular workshops, which is literally a 90-minute team building exercise,
Mhm.
I just get people to learn about each other, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? And that's where I think the part of Lego Series Play that sometimes is hard to grasp initially is there are many different ways you can unlock it. And right, you think like, oh, I'm going to do a full day workshop and help teams figure out their core foundational values, and all of that's great. But that's a really hard thing to sell to an organization who's never done Lego Series Play, right? I'm gonna trust this person to do all of these things. Instead, what if I just got a group of people together that maybe work together and maybe they know each other, they've seen their Zoom backgrounds, and they know each other's names, but what if I could just build really true connection in 90 minutes and
Yeah.
get people to reveal the depth and dimension of who they are outside of their job title? And that alone has become so powerful. But it took me a while to get my head around like, no, something that simple
Yeah.
could be amazingly powerful. And it's
Yeah.
become my signature workshop, my signature product, and people love it.
Yeah.
And I didn't love it at first because it's like, no, I want to do these long, clever workshops, not this team building thing. But I'm like, wait
Yeah.
a minute. I think Lego Serious Play is the best dang team building you can ever do. Because what are you doing if you're team building, if not creating connection and relationships in your group? Because that's where the collaboration comes from. That's where the innovation comes from. You have to create that trust and that psychological safety. And the first way to do that, in my opinion, is you just have to know who each other are. You know,
Yeah.
what do you like to do outside of work?
And I guess you have to learn that part of skills building as well, like how does this method works. For
Mhm.
me, indeed, it's also a very ambiguous feeling. This feeling of like, because I often say to clients, sorry, team building is collateral damage.
Mhm.
It will happen, yes, but there are a lot cheaper team building trainings than do
Oh,
it
of
with me a
course.
whole day.
Yeah.
But I like also that part that you say, and this is what I always advise in the training as well. Build something that is small enough and that's safe enough to try for people, and where they will find out what is the power of Lego Serious Play, because it is in the right hands, it's a very powerful tool, right? For me, I think it opens up doors that were locked before. It opened up vaults that are locked of change, of motivation, of new insights, of business opportunities. And that's also what you said in the beginning when I asked you, so when would you use LSP? And you said, when you have a question that is not solved yet. And we help you to solve it. And by that, also the team will work better together, because that's something on the side.
Yeah.
What would be then something that you go like, yeah, there I would be reluctant to use LSP because there are better methods. Because it's not even you and I came out of a fire hose drinking and thinking we can
Yeah.
conquer the world. There's also parts that you would not use it. What would be a moment that you don't use it?
Mhm.
It's a
Good question.
difficult question, apparently.
Yeah. I think it does come down to like where there is like an absolute right answer, right? I'm trying to think of a specific. I know I had one just a few months ago where someone said, "Hey, can we use LSP for this?" I was like,
Eh,
I don't know that this is right. Yeah, it's
you can use Lego, but not LSP.
right. I'm trying not to, and it was more of a like they didn't necessarily care what all the insights in the room were. Like it was sort of like the client wanted to get everyone behind their idea, right?
Yeah.
And it was a leader who's like, I just want everyone to believe in my idea. I'm like, that's not for this, right? Like it's not for like a hey, get on board. Now there's a way of saying, hey, you want to help them navigate change, and then we can have them build through what are their challenges. We can help them build through how to solution them. We can have them build through again, where it's helping people find their own solution to this thing. But when you want people to say, I want you to have this one answer and agree with it, then not really, right? So there's definite limitation. You need people who believe in like I guess like an egalitarian type leadership approach, right? Where best answer wins, and we want to hear people's voices, and we want them to understand parts of this, or we want to hear their challenges, right? Or we want to hear what they think. It really is about listening and sharing voice and getting those insights out on the table. And if that's not one of the primary outcomes, then LSP is not it, right?
Do
And so,
try something different, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. What you say is what a friend of mine once said. He said, if you are the smartest person in the room, get out. This is not the right tool.
yeah,
And I think if and what I liked, if the answer is totally defined, so we know
hmm
it has to be X, Y, or Z. Why not build up a simulation? Because we know what it is, and simulation you can do with Lego, and it's a very good teaching school, but it's something different than the Lego Series Play method.
mm,
Yeah, I
yeah,
really enjoy that. That's a good insight. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing.
yeah.
And
Well, I
now,
mean, I think you can do simulations with LSP, but you need to do it almost in like a pre-mortem type context.
yeah,
Right.
sorry, and
X and X
simulations,
happened. Yep.
yeah, and simulations will give you questions that you don't know the answer on, and there you
Exactly.
go, a deep dive again. So there's this hybrid form, right? It's not one way is the right way.
Right. Exactly. Again, I think it's about insights more than anything, right? And
Yeah.
there's nothing, this is the thing that I think a lot of people like might be the of all the benefits of Lego Serious Play, right? The voice, the psychological safety, the sharing, the listening, the curiosity, like there's so many great things going on. But I think that the insights per unit of time versus anything else that's out there. I don't think anything touches LSP. Like the sheer volume of insights is mind-boggling.
What does that mean? What you just say? Yes, I know what it means, but for our listeners, what does it mean? What you say? Because I'm like, yeah, he's right.
Right.
But what does that mean for the normal person that doesn't know LSP? What does that mean for my Scrum Master who is doubting should I do it or not?
Well, I like to think of it this way. We're in the age of, right, big data. We're in like the more data we have, the better data we have, the better decisions we can make. Period. And I think anyone who's in a space where they need to make decisions, it's about data. It's about information. And in fact, right, the opposite happens true too, where you're like, wow, I'm just going to keep chasing data. At some point, you have to make a decision when you have enough information. This methodology gives information in droves, and it does it so succinctly and it does it so rapidly that sometimes you can miss all of the things that come out. So like an example I can give, like imagine, right, you're in an organization and maybe you're talking about the risks of a decision. And I did a workshop once about risks to strategy. It wasn't about the strategy at all, but we had groups building, like we have the strategy, right? Almost a pre-mortem style. It's a year from now. Why did this fail? What happened? And now you get these stories, and each person's story had at a minimum one thing. Chances are it was more than that, probably 1 to 4 things. So now you have 4 pieces of insight per individual. And this room was 30 individuals. So now I've got 30 times 4, right? So now we're at 120 insights. That was shit. That one question takes 15, 20 minutes. You just got 130 insights in 20 minutes. What?
Yeah.
You can't even process that. You can't even record that, right? So that becomes the thing. Now, are there repetitive insights? Yeah. And that's what you look for. Now it's like, oh, 40% of the people had this similar insight of leadership changing their mind, right, in the middle of the year. Okay, that's big. We need to understand that a little bit better.
And you have to address that, right? Yeah.
Now, but this is what you're getting at versus if you have an open conversation in the room, what's wrong with our strategy? Like half the room's not even going to speak up, right? And so now you've already cut off half of those insights. There's no way. And if you're verbally talking, 15 minutes later, like 8 people got to talk. And chances are they said the same insight and they had to parrot what someone else said. One person spoke twice, right? So like you're just like, this is the thing you're seeing from a facilitator standpoint and a designer standpoint is look at all of this information that you can get. And you can get it in a safe way. You can get it in a nuanced way. You can get it in a very rapid way. That's where I think this beauty, and it's hard. It's hard to share that with clients and with people who have never experienced this because it just doesn't compute until you see it and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is bonkers, right? This is amazing.
Yeah. And for me, this is also like it's like this. There's an insight that is like this, right? This is one insight. The person who built this can never say, yeah, like the other one said. Because everybody goes like, how do you mean what the other one said? It doesn't look like each other. They only got both, they have a black plate, but that's it. And that safety to be there is really amazing. And what I really like as well, what you said is like, if you are there in a room with so many people and they all have insights and you have 120 insights, normally they stop listening after the CEO talked and everybody goes like, yeah, I'm not crazy. I don't want my pink slip tomorrow. I'm gonna shut up because the CEO said it's gonna be marvelous. There's no problem whatsoever. And that then you will be a thief of yourself as a company if you don't let this out. When I talk to my clients, I say Lego Serious Play will show the elephant in the room. I can guarantee you the elephant that's there is going to be talked about. And who can afford not to talk about their elephant? And then that last sentence normally gets a lot of silence, right? Like, who cannot talk about the elephant? They go like, because it's
Right.
important. That's why they hire you, right? That's also why they need you, I think. Because the
Exactly.
elephant is there already probably for years and it's not coming out. That's amazing. I see you're building. That's a good sign for me always.
Yeah.
But some
I don't know. I don't even
people,
know exactly what I'm building. You showed me your model and I started building things. I guess I came up with this. And I think that, well, I don't know. I guess what I'm thinking is based on kind of what we're saying, right? Like this is that piece of information.
yeah,
And I think as leaders and as business owners, right, you're always looking for that like that gem, that diamond, right? That insight, that piece that's like, oh man, right? And it may be a group of insights too, but I think that right, the idea of like going at this verbally, like the wall that you get is just massive, right? You might as well put
yeah,
a giant divider up because trying to
yeah,
get to this flag is just blocked. But this Lego Serious Play, it really allows you to kind of elevate the conversation and elevate it in a way that it's just safety, right? It's both the combination of safety and volume that gives you that platform that allows you to get to this insight. But you've got to listen, you've got to pay attention, and you've got to get that nuance. I really think I love how you built those two separate models because that is like, I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in my career where I had an insight, but I decided not to share it because, and again, I'm not a quiet guy, right? I don't
no,
pull punches. If I have something to say, I'll say it. But it's close enough to what someone else said that I was like, I didn't even understand my own nuance between what I was thinking and what they were thinking. And it's possible that I might have said the same thing as them, right? And I didn't want to be like, well, I don't want to just repeat someone else's idea. But at the same time, there was a slight nuance in that. And I knew there was a slight nuance, but I didn't necessarily know how to communicate that and how to do that in a super competitive environment where there's 6, 8 people in the room, maybe even more. And you're like, do I really go and say that? And so I think that's where folks that maybe haven't been in that situation, right? Folks who are extremely extroverted, who always get their idea on the table, they maybe don't understand that there's half the group in the room has ideas and thoughts that are not coming out just because it's like there's just not space to find it in that meeting because you have to compete for that voice.
yeah. And with that introvert and extrovert, I always say the extrovert, and I'm pretty extrovert. You have seen me on a meeting. I won't shy away to talk either. But the extroverts will think while they move their bottom jaw, while the introverts can think without moving.
Hmm.
And you want both opinions. And I would almost ask myself after this conversation that we had until now, can you afford as business owner not to hear all the voices in the room?
Oh yeah,
For me,
absolutely.
the learning I take out of it, can you afford not to listen to all the voices in the room? Because
Yeah.
you miss so much out.
I mean, all right. See, now you've inspired me to build something else here. Because, well, no. So, like, I have. Oh, man, okay. See, now like now I'm going to talk while building. So, one of the things, and I think one of the reasons why fell in love with Lego Serious Play was the timing in which I found it. And this is going to be interesting if I have the right pieces here. So, my last role, I worked in a operations role. I had a lot of responsibilities, but one of the responsibilities was program management, and we would have I mean, just a ridiculous amount of projects. I think at one point I counted 50 different projects, and I had like 2 project managers. And it was the same people working on these projects, right? It was the same like 20 people that were doing almost everything. And this was when I was working in the cruise industry. And we would have these meetings where we would have to basically cover updates on like 50 projects. And communication was just this constant issue. And as the person running the meeting, it was just this mind-boggling experience that um actually, yeah, I'm gonna build. So this is just kind of what, as I'm talking, this is what I'm building. And I feel like I'm gonna put me in the middle. And this is what I felt like. So I've got myself in the middle here, and I've just got walls. And even though I'm in a room with a bunch of people talking, this is what it felt like because every single person on any of these sides, right? So I'll throw a little flower out here. We'll throw a little see-through piece here. It's not that these different groups didn't want the same thing,
Yeah,
right? They did want a quality end to the project. They did want something that would be beneficial to the client, to the company, whatever it might be. But because of the way, I mean, it was a combination of process, it was a combination of communication, it was a combination of a lot of things that I always felt like if I could have just had everyone to LSP in these meetings, it would like we would save like 20 hours, 40 hours a week. It was just because that's what we were constantly having is these weird communication breakdowns, and you
Yeah.
could just see it happening. But like when you see that live and you're like, first of all, you shush for a moment. We need to hear from this person. We really need to hear from this person. But then again, the extrovert, the person in this department who is really persuasive is just pushing their point of view so hard. And you're like, no, you need to calm down. We need to hear from. And so you're just sort of you're almost like a policeman at that point, right? You're trying to be a traffic cop to a conversation, which is very hard to do because
Yeah.
then a senior leader sees something and they decide to speak up, and then the conversation shifts and you're off. And you're like, no, no, we haven't even fixed the first problem yet. And so because you're trying to do so much with so little time, you lose the efficiency, you lose the impact. And I think that I was certified while I was doing this, and my brain just went, this, this, right? It's
Yeah.
about slowing, I think you hear the phrase slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need to step back, really say, like, what is the thing we're trying to do? And you can do that verbally. But LSP makes it again, it goes back to that getting the more insights per unit of time and understanding where everyone sits because you realize very quickly that you're not competing against everyone else. Even though you're competing for voice, if you take that away and you look at what everyone's trying to do, you realize those win-win scenarios are usually always possible.
Yeah, it's like this. So like for me, the problem. This is the problem. This is where we stand, and this is what we need to address. And everybody's running around it, trying to get this as quickly as possible solved. While sometimes we maybe have to step up, open the windows, and take like almost a meta position on like, hey, what's going on there? Why is it? And I always feel difficulty with slow down to speed up. While it is so true, but most people don't want to stop because they don't hear slow down, they hear stop, and that's backwards. And I'm like, no, it's sharpening your saw, as in Covey. It is. It's maybe even get a something else, get an axe instead of a saw to cut down the tree, but sharpen it instead of just whacking all the time and then being angry that it doesn't go fast enough. That's really. Thank you for this beautiful insights, Brandon. And I have the feeling we could talk for at least 2 hours more,
Easy.
but I'm also a little bit restricted in my time. And I really want to invite you to do another vlog with me in that point of view. Thank you so much. There's 1,000 questions I still want to ask you, but I will close with one remark. And my last question would be, Brandon, what would be your advice to new LSP facilitators, to Scrum Masters and Agile coaches in this world? What it would be your advice so that we all can sleep safe and sound tonight?
Safe and sound tonight. I that last little part threw me off a little bit, Martin, there.
Sorry.
Like it's gonna have a public safety bent to it now here. No, I think honestly, it's here. Yeah, there we go. It's actually gonna be very similar to the model that you just built, but in a slightly different way. Um, and I think that it's so I'm just gonna build this a little different. And I think it's going to go back to what we were just talking about. I'm very much, I think, in that frame of the slow down to speed up, and you kind of unlocked what I think is a very common challenge within business, within everything, and especially within almost every brand new LSP facilitator that I meet is also slow down to speed up. Figure out this green piece, and it takes a little time to get here. This is the problem that you're solving, and this is the most important thing. LSP is how you do it, and that's magical, and that comes into the conversation and how to talk about that. All of that will come with time and with practice. But the red block is to go out and just don't go just solving everything, right? Understand that problem first. It's back to what you were saying with that window piece. Really dig into that because LSP at the end of the day is a methodology, and it's a communication methodology, and it helps communication. But communication is, in my opinion, is almost like the core of almost every single problem out there. So you could solve most things with LSP, right? Especially parts of them if you're looking for ideas, insights, knowledge, points of view. And so that's where it becomes really hard, I think, for a lot of folks is to like really understand this true problem. And I think this is also the most problem with a ton of business owners that I've met as well, too. Like anyone running their own business, if you don't know the problem you solve and it's not in the same language as what the client's saying and the pain point they have, then yeah, you're off, right? It's kind of that product market fit. So it's really understanding, right, what is this problem? And the quicker and the more detailed you can get in this, and I'm still working on this. I'm 5 years later. Yesterday, I was rewriting one of my my sales sheets, and I honestly I got the copy so good I had to stop because I was like it's taken me 5 years to get it, and again, and in a year I'll probably dial it down again because
Yeah.
right the deeper and the tighter we can get, it sounds simple but it's not. So I think it's like right, slow down, really figure out that problem and keep working at that problem, making sure it's the same problem that your clients have, and then boom, you can bring out LSP and make everyone happy, joyful, and then we'll all sleep well tonight and every night.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. So get down to the problem, get a total understanding of the problem, do with all your heart, all your senses, all your cognitive possibilities, your collective genius that is in the room, get understanding of that problem, and then start figuring out what would be the solution. And that is sometimes to slow down, to speed up,
Yeah,
sharpening yourself. Thank you so much, Brandon.
exactly. Thank you, Martijn.